at this point in my journey, the app was working, everything was functional. And that's when I realized this is it. It's time to submit to the App Store. After 2 months of, building, testing, learning, staying up until morning just to see one thing work. This was the moment everything was building towards. So in this video, I'm taking you through the entire App Store submission process. So let's get into it. Before I could even think about submitting, I needed to get a few things ready. First, I needed an app icon. I created my app icon using ChatGPT and Adobe Express. Now, the thing about app icons is that you need them in multiple sizes. Apple requires specific dimensions for different parts of the app, like home screen, app store, settings, notifications. I didn't create all those sizes manually. Instead, I used a website called appicon.co. So you just upload your 1024 by 1024 icon and it generates all the sizes you need in a zip file. It even creates Android versions if you need them. And I added them to Xcode. So you go to assets.xc assets, find the app icon section. You will see slots for all the different icon sizes. So in newer versions of Xcode, it automatically generates all the required sizes for you. So you don't need to drag each size individually anymore. Your app now has icons for every size Apple requires. Now next is screenshots. Apple requires screenshots for the App Store listing so people can see what your app looks like before downloading it. For the first version, I just used the iOS simulator to capture screenshots. So these are some of the screenshots from my first submission. They looked, different back then. Simpler, less polished, and these are the current screenshots I use now. I have improved them with each update. I added text overlays like interactive stories or ABC games, coloring activities. Now you might think you need to create screenshots for every single iPhone and iPad size. But here is the thing, you don't. So I only uploaded screenshots for two sizes. iPhone 6.5 inches display and iPad 13 inches display. Apple automatically scales and displays them for other device sizes. Apple also requires a privacy policy URL and a support page. So I created a simple page using Google Sites. It's very basic. It explains what data the app collects, account information, child profiles, progress data, and it makes it clear that the app doesn't display ads or doesn't use third-party tracking and doesn't share data with anyone. For support, I just added my email address. Other thing that I needed to do before submitting the app was to enroll in the Apple Developer Program. So this is required if you want to publish apps on the App Store. It costs $99 per year. So I went to developer.apple.com and clicked enroll. So the process is pretty straightforward. You just have to sign in with your Apple ID, fill out some information like your name, address, organization details if you're a company. Since I'm an individual developer, I just selected individual. Then you pay the $99 fee and then you wait for the approval. So the approval typically takes 24 to 48 hours for processing and activation after payment. Mine got approved within 24 hours, and once it's approved, you get access to the Apple Developer Portal. So this is where you manage certificates, identifiers, and all the technical stuff. But honestly, as a beginner, you don't need to spend much time here because Xcode can handle most of it automatically, which I will show you later. The important thing is, once you are enrolled, you can access App Store Connect. So App Store Connect is where you actually create your app listing and submit builds for review. So when you first log in, you see this dashboard. To create a new app, you click on My Apps, then you click the plus icon and select New App. Now it asks you some basic information like platform, which is iOS, name, mine was Giggletales, primary language is English, and bundle ID. This is important. Your bundle ID is a unique identifier for your app. It looks something like com.yourname.appname. So if you have already set this up in Xcode, it should appear in this drop down. If it doesn't, you will need to create one in the identifier section of the Apple Developer Portal. But we will get to that when we set up Xcode. And the last is SKU. This is just an internal reference for you. I use something like Giggletales-001. Then you click create and now your app exists in App Store Connect. Now that the app is created, you need to fill out a lot of information. First, there is the app information section. So this is where you set things like title and subtitle. Subtitle, this appears under your app name in the App Store. I originally wrote interactive stories for kids, but I had to change it later. I will explain why in a bit. So right now it's educational stories and games. Primary category. This was confusing for me. Is Giggle Tales an education app, entertainment, or falls under book category? Apple has a guide for choosing category. After reading through it, I chose education as the primary category and games as the secondary. Here's why I didn't choose the made for kids category, even though my app is for kids. The made for kids category is extremely restrictive. It's meant for apps that are exclusively for young children and have very limited functionality. Apps in that category face stricter review guidelines and have less discoverability. Since my app is educational and entertaining and parents are the ones downloading it for their kids, education made more sense. Apple's own documentation suggests choosing the category that best describes your app's main purpose. For Giggle Tales, that's education, learning through stories and activities. Next, there is the age rating section. For kids apps, this is really important. Apple asks a series of questions to determine the appropriate age rating. Questions like, does your app contain violence or graphic content? Does it have scary or intense themes? Does it have unrestricted web access? For Giggle Tales, the answers were all no. So the app got an age rating of 4 plus. That means it's suitable for children aged 4 and up. That's the minimum age rating Apple shows for most kids apps. It's not something I chose, it's based on the content and Apple's age rating system. Then there is a section where you upload screenshots and write your app description. For screenshots, you upload them for different device sizes. Like I mentioned earlier, I only uploaded for iPhone 6.5 inches display and iPad 13 inches display. Apple handles the rest. You just drag and drop your images here. For the description, I wrote about what the app does, like AI generated stories for kids aged 2 to 6, activities like coloring, puzzles, tracing, age appropriate themes, offline mode, multiple child profiles, and other things. And for keywords, I added terms like kids stories, bedtime stories, educational games, toddler, preschool, bedtime, interactive, coloring, family, and reading. Keywords help people find your app when they search in the App Store. And here's something good to know, you are not locked into these choices. All of this, your description, title, subtitle, keywords, can be changed later when you submit updates. So, if you realize certain keywords aren't working, or you want to adjust your description, you can update them with your next version. Then there is pricing and availability. I made the app free, so there is no in-app purchases, no ads, no subscriptions. Just a free app for parents and kids. For availability, I set it to be available in most countries. Apple doesn't allow certain apps in some countries due to local regulations and policies. I just left the default settings, which made the app available in most countries worldwide. One thing I didn't expect was how strict Apple is with kids' apps. You have to prove that your app is safe. Apple asks very specific questions like, do you collect any data? Do you use third party analytics? Do you display ads? Are there any links to external websites? For Giggle Tales, there were no ads, no third party analytics or tracking, no external links, no social media sharing, and kids stay completely inside the app. So, all user data, profiles, progress is stored locally on the device or in my own backend. Nothing is shared with third parties. Apple is very serious about this, especially for kids apps. So if you have ads or third party SDKs, you need to disclose that clearly. Alright, so App Store Connect is set up. Now I need to prepare the app in Xcode and upload a build. This is the technical part, and honestly, it was confusing the first time. Let me show you step by step. First, you need to add your Apple ID to Xcode so it can connect to your developer account. Go to Xcode and then settings. Click on accounts, click the plus icon and select Apple ID. Enter your Apple ID and password. Once you are signed in, Xcode connects to your Apple developer account. You should see your name and your team listed here. Now let's configure the app itself. In the General tab, you will see Bundle Identifier. This is the unique ID for your app. It should match what you set in App Store Connect. Then there is display name Giggle Tales. version 1.0, build 1. Every time you submit an update, you increment the version or build number. For example, my current version is 1.3 and the build number increments each time I upload. Now this is the part that tips a lot of beginners. Signing. When you submit an app to Apple, you need to sign in with a certificate. This proves to Apple that the app is really from you and hasn't been tampered with. There are two ways to do this: automatic or manual. I used automatic signing. You just check this box, automatically manage signing. When you do this, Xcode handles everything for you, creates the certificate, the provisioning profiles, all the technical stuff. So you don't have to go into the Apple developer portal and create them manually. Manual signing is more for teams or large companies who need more control over certificate management. But for someone like me building an app solo, automatic signing is perfect. Just make sure your team is selected here. It should show your Apple developer account name. And that's it. Xcode takes care of the rest. Now, if you're curious about what's happening behind the scenes, so when you use automatic signing, Xcode creates entries here in the Apple developer portal. It creates a certificate for your app. It creates an app ID, which is your bundle identifier. So you don't need to do this yourself, but it's good to know it's happening. Alright, so signing is set up. One important thing before you archive is make sure you are building in release mode and not debug mode. Here, go to product, scheme, then edit scheme. Under the archive section, you will see build configuration. Make sure this is set to release and not debug. Debug mode includes extra logging and development tools that make the app larger and slower. Release mode is optimized for production. It's smaller, faster, and ready for the App Store. Xcode usually sets this to release by default, but it's good to double check. So mine is set to release, good to go. Okay, now I need to create an archive of the app and upload it to App Store Connect. In Xcode, go to Product, Archive. This builds your app and packages it for distribution. It takes a few minutes depending on the size of your app. Once it's done, the organizer window opens automatically. You should see your app listed here with the version and build number. Now click Distribute App and select App Store Connect. Keep the default settings and click Upload. Xcode uploads your app to App Store Connect. This can take a few minutes. Once it's done, you will see a confirmation that the upload was successful. And here's the cool part. After a few minutes, the build automatically appears in App Store Connect. You will see it listed here under your app ready to be submitted for review. So at this point, everything was ready. App Store Connect was filled out, the build was uploaded, it was time to submit. September 1st, 2025, 1 am, I submitted the app and the status changed to waiting for review. So the next morning, I woke up to a notification from Apple that my app was rejected. It said that before we can proceed with the review of your app, we need some additional information. They had questions like, does your app include third-party analytics? Does your app include third-party advertising? Will the data be shared with any third parties? Is your app collecting any user or device data? And then there was another issue. The message read that the app supports account creation but does not include an option to initiate account deletion. I didn't even think about that, but Apple requires that. If your app lets users create accounts, they also need to be able to delete them, right? So I went back to my app and added that feature. Then I went back to Apple Store Connect and replied to Apple's message. I have added account deletion functionality and users can delete their account by going to profile, and from there they can see option as delete account, and then I resubmitted the app. That same day, a few hours later, I got another rejection. This time it was about the content. The message read as, we were unable to locate some of the features described in your metadata, specifically an ever-growing library of captivating tales. I realized what happened. I had only added stories for one age group, let's say ages 3 to 4. I thought Apple would just test the app with that one age group and approve it. And then after approval, I could add stories for the other age groups. But I was wrong. Apple wanted to see the complete experience before approval. They wanted stories in all age groups like 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5 and 5 to 6. And for each age group, I had 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium and advanced. Apple wanted to see content across all of those. And then there was another message saying that we noticed your app subtitle includes a term for kids, which implies that this app is made specifically for children. However, this app was not submitted as a kids category app. I realized that my subtitle was interactive stories for kids, but because I didn't select the made for kids category, Apple pointed out that I couldn't use that wording. The made for kids category is very restrictive. It's designed for apps that are exclusively for very young children and have extremely limited functionality. My app is educational and entertaining, so that's why I couldn't use for kids in the subtitle. So I changed it to just educational stories and games. I resubmitted the app. I kept refreshing App Store Connect, and then at 11 p.m. that same night on September 9, I got the notification that your app status is ready for distribution. The app was approved. After all the building, the testing, the late nights, the rejections, the fixing, the app was finally live. The next day, I got my first download. It was from a family member, of course, but it didn't matter because someone had downloaded something I created. So that's how I got Giggle Tales into the App Store. The next video, I will talk about what happened after the launch, how I tried to get users, what worked, what didn't. So alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye bye.